Let's go ahead and get started in the interest of time. My name is Alana Reyes. I am the Director of Counseling here at George Mason. And welcome! If this is your first child that is coming to high school and this is all brand new, this is so exciting for you. I'm like excited for you guys because my kids aren't old enough to go to high school. But this is awesome, and this is going to be an incredible experience, and we're so happy that you're joining us this evening. If you have an older child or 2 or 3 and you've done this before, thank you for coming back out and supporting your younger child. I'm sure that makes them feel special. And some of the requirements have definitely changed, so let's definitely, we'll go over everything. We want you to walk away today having a sense of, number one, what classes they're going to need to pick for next year to get ready and get started as a strong high school student, and just have a little sense of the curriculum, a transcript. It's a brief overview. It's going to be tons of information. Great news, this is being recorded. It will all be online. All of the information about our courses will be online, and we'll show you how to get to that at the end of the evening. We will take questions as we go, but if we get too in the weeds, I might pull us back a little bit because I want to make sure we get through the whole presentation. Again, I am Alana Reyes. To my right, I have
Valerie Chesley, I'm one of the counselors.
I'm Dana Kieran, one of the counselors.
I'm Brad McAdam, also one of the counselors here.
So the way we divide our counselors is by alpha range. So currently, Valerie has letters Q through Z, Dana has letters A through HO, and Brad has letters HU through P.
For the ninth grade.
Yeah. For the ninth graders. We will most likely be continuing that for your rising ninth graders, but we want to make sure things are equally distributed, so I don't want to lock you in. At this point, if you have questions about your individual student, I would encourage you to talk to your current counselor, Tara Philmeyer, but if you have specific questions and you feel, and she encourages you to reach out, please reach out to me at this point so I can best facilitate and you just a one shot and they can focus on our current students. So lots of information. Let's go ahead and get started. This is what we plan on covering this evening. And so let's get right into it. One of the things we find when students start coming up into ninth grade, we say, okay, what are the different types of diplomas? And they all say the IB diploma. And that's great. We are an IB school system. We want students to focus on IB. But IB, the actual IB diploma, is like the cherry on the icing on the cake. An IB diploma will not allow you to walk across the stage in Constitution Hall in 4.5 years from today for your student. It is an internationally focused and minded diploma. It is a wonderful thing to attain, but for our purposes, for your rising ninth graders, while that's in the back of our head, we focus on the Virginia requirements of what it takes to earn either a standard or an advanced diploma to get out of high school. And that's what we'll be focusing on today. Luckily this evening, we also have Alicia Miller and Dan Coast here, our MYP and IB people. They'll be speaking afterwards, so they can give you a sense of where your student will be as they come into ninth grade all the way through and how they help focus the students and keep IB always in our framework. So we're going to go over the standard and the advanced diploma requirements. If you do have an older student and they're above 10th grade, so 11th, 12th grade, or have already graduated, they had different requirements than your current student will have when they come into Basin. The Virginia Department of Education just likes to keep us as counselors on our toes, really always keeps us focused. I'm going to let Dina go over our Virginia Advanced and Standard Diploma requirements.
Okay. Hi guys. So there's 2 types of diploma types in Virginia, standard and advanced. There's some differences between the 2, but not a ton. So this first column tells you the amount of credits they need. So how many classes they actually have to take. The second column, where it talks about verified credits, that is the combination of a class along with the SOL. Passing both gets you a verified credit. So those are the difference in the 2 columns that you see. So for a standard diploma, you can kind of read through how many credits they need in each core area. They need, for both diploma types, they're always going to need 4 years of English. That's the same for both. Beyond that, there's slight differences. For the standard diploma, for social studies, math, and science, they need 3 years for a standard diploma. For an advanced diploma, they need 4. So the advanced diploma is just asking them to continue that math and science trajectory in the social studies all 4 years that they're in high school. For the math classes, that starts at anything algebra and above. So if you have a kid who's currently in MEH and they're taking Algebra 1 or Geometry or Algebra 2, those are all counting towards their high school credits, okay? Beyond that, for the standard diploma, there are no specific world language requirements, comparing that to the advanced diploma. So for the advanced diploma, a student, before I trip on this, needs to have 3 years of a world language. For the standard diploma, there is no specific requirement for a world language. Those credits and those electives are kind of all grouped together, where it could be a world language, a fine arts, which is some of our electives like band, art, chorus, or a CTE class, the career and technical ed, which could be courses like our design class, robotics, TV and media, something more along those lines. Okay, so for an advanced diploma, they really push the full 3 years of a world language. If a student is not interested in a language, does not excel at languages, that's just not a place where they can be successful. For a standard diploma, they don't have to worry about that. We also just started offering ASL. That is offered under a world language, so that works as well for our upcoming students. The other things are pretty much the same for both diploma types. The student needs a year of econ and personal finance. In our school, that can either be met through online classes, in-class classes, or students are also welcome to take a full year of IB economics that will meet the requirements for both. The biggest change that has been made if you have an older student is the number of SOLs and verified credits that are required. If you look between the standard and advanced, it's actually now the same, which is, I think, awesome for the kids because it puts less of an emphasis on testing and more of an emphasis on how they're actually learning. So for both diploma types, a student needs 5 SOLs total. 1 reading, 1 writing, 1 math, 1 science, 1 social studies. And that's all they need regardless of the diploma types that they get. For our older students, just to give you a comparison, our current 11th and 12th graders need 9 SOLs for an advanced diploma. So they've cut it by a lot, and a lot of that is to put less of an emphasis on testing and kind of open up the advanced diploma for more students. Okay? Any questions? No, questions are later. Oh, yes.
Yes, so what happens if they do language like in Spanish or any for the standard? So that doesn't count, that doesn't give them anything?
It will count towards their electives. It will not count for nothing. It will count towards their elective. It's just the requirement of how many is required. For an advanced diploma, it is non-negotiable 3 years of one language or 2 years of 2 separate languages for a total of 4. So if they wanted to do 2 years of Spanish or 2 years of French, that could combine into 4 years. That would also be acceptable. If a student is doing the standard diploma, it won't count for nothing. It will count towards their general elective credits.
And if I could just interject, so as being an IB division, being that our students 6th through 10th grade are all MYP students, we encourage all students that are able to access a world language to be taking a world language. In order, I believe MYP, correct me if I'm wrong, Alicia, is we want them to get to level 4, not the 4th level, but acquisition, phase 4, correct?
Yeah, so they have an opportunity to take language from 6th grade through 10th grade. The language they choose in 7th grade, they'll stick with through 10th grade typically. And yeah, we want them to have the opportunity to get to a certain level so that they have choices for 11th and 12th grade, but they don't have to get to a particular.
Right. So we just want them to continue to be successful as long as they can. That is the encouragement, not required by the state. Again, different requirements go with different hand in hand. Other great news, if your student is in World History 1 this year and they take it and they pass the SOL, they no longer have to take a social studies SOL in high school. So one big check mark done. I think that's awesome. Yes?
That leads into one of my questions. When do they take the SOL? Like, is it all their senior year? It doesn't sound like it.
Great question. When do they take the SOLs? So World History 1, if they take it and pass in 8th grade, done, you're done for the rest of high school. Math, we do need all of our students to take an SOL in high school, but just one. So whatever math they come into, so next year if they're taking Algebra 1, Geometry, or Algebra 2, they will sit for an SOL. If they pass that, they're done. Whenever your student takes biology, so we will go over the slides of what they can anticipate taking. A lot of our 9th graders take bio or honors bio. That will be the one SOL they take for science. Check, done. And then they don't have to take one for chemistry or anything else. And then their English ones are both in 11th grade. One's in March, one's in June, May, June. Reading and writing is in March, reading is in May. And all the content that they get all the way through 11th grade is kind of, it culminates onto that SOL. And that's it. Sure. All right, so what is on a transcript? You guys are kind of get the latest breaking news. And so I have not shared this with a group of people yet. And so I'm going to do my best to explain it. See, I saw someone say, oh boy, so yeah, I feel the same way. We are, and this is all very positive, we are going to the Virginia State Transcript. We currently, because I took it off of here because I didn't want to confuse anybody, we use a pretty outdated transcript. It was something from, do we even know? You've been here for how many years?
14.
And it was before your time, 14 years ago. The state moved to a state transcript long ago, and our system just hasn't necessarily caught up, but we are there and we are ready to go. That it is easy to read, it is easy for colleges to understand. This is what will be on the transcript. We follow what is required from the Virginia Department of Education. The schools attended, all of your students are going to be here next year, so it'll say Mason. If your student is taking a high school level class at Henderson, such as World History 1 or any of their maths above Algebra 1 and above, and their world language of the level 1 and above, that will all be reflected that they took them in previous years at Henderson. If you're transferring from another school, say Congressional, and you earned an Algebra 1 credit, it would say Congressional School Algebra 1. It has the courses that they've taken, the credits that they've earned. I always like to point this out, the days of attendance. It actually says days attended out of how many. And while we want students to take care of themselves, please do not send your child to school because you're worried if they have the flu, it'll be reflected on their transcript. So keep them home, please. But we think it's important that students know, one too many mental health days, if you really don't need it, is not what we want you to be here. Because colleges will see that, right? They want to see that you're showing up. Obviously, extraordinary circumstances are always able to be explained, but that does go on there. The overall GPA, and then SAT or ACT scores are also required to be on there. And that'll all be on the new state transcript. The reason this is, yes?
Sorry, I assume grades will be included on the transcript in addition to the GPA?
Oh, absolutely. So maybe I should. You get a gold star for this evening. So that brings me to the next part of grades. Starting next year with our rising 9th graders, the only grades that will be reflected on the transcript are the end of year grade. So this is the difference with our rising 9s and beyond, is we will be just assigning a full credit at the end of the year. We think this is aligned with the state. Previously, George Mason had assigned semester credit at the end of semester 1, so it was 0.5 to equal a full credit. Now they will just get one end of year grade to be in line with the state, and we really think it's a positive to reflect a student's growth throughout the year. Yes?
So if you have a student that's a sophomore and they were previously on the old transcript, how is that going to be reflected? So will all of their grades, you'll only see their final grade from their freshman and sophomore year, or will they have the previous transcript on there?
Great question. It will be in a different format, but they will still have the previous grades. We wouldn't want it, because they were assigned a semester 1 and a semester 2 grade, we wouldn't want to mess with that mathematically, because if we averaged it, it could come up to an average. We don't want to do anything that would be negative for the student, and so we're not going to mess with that. It'll just be reflected as S1, S2, but starting from this year forward, it will be a final grade. Yes?
How do you know whether the student wants to show their SAT or AP exam grade?
AP exam grades, great question. AP exam grades are never included on there. That's just sent directly if the student wants to show it. ACT, it is automatically on there according to the state. If you do not want those sent, though, you can just write us and let us know to remove them, and we will remove them. Go ahead.
In the past, you could send your ACT or SAT to the college.
Yes.
Are you saying that automatically always the SAT gets put on?
They both get put on, whatever is reported to the school, but if you chose, you only wanted one set of scores, you only wanted the SAT report and not the ACT, you can request to have those taken off of your transcript. Exactly, yes. We have no stake in that game, whatever is best for your family. And a lot of schools, colleges are going test optional, and so more and more students will ask to have them removed. Yes.
Wait, sorry, one thing on that, just to be clear. What we're putting on the transcript is just our record of that, but when a student is actually applying to college, yes, he or she has the option to send whatever scores they want to send to the college, and those are the official scores they're sending. This is just on the transcript.
Yes.
If they take multiple SATs, they're all
Typically, the one that is calculated in our system is just their last SAT sitting, not all of them.
It takes the highest.
highest.
It takes
Are
the
they,
highest
are we
scores.
currently pulling? We've had some issues. It should be pulling the highest scores from the tests, but
But
yes.
will it take, like most colleges will take your highest
Yes.
level and your highest math. So it won't necessarily do, oh, October, that was your best overall. It'll take your best math, even if that was 2 years ago, and your best, like it is, okay, thanks.
Yes, that is what we have seen it do.
Again, no, it doesn't matter that much because they're not official.
Yes, they want to see it from
It's
college.
not even what the school is saying.
Yes.
But most of the schools, when we've been applying, those of us who have kids in college, they, many of them now ask you to self-report, and then if they admit you, then they want you to send it officially. So
Yes.
it actually does matter what we send on our transcript.
But the students would be
They're
self-reporting that, they
self-reporting.
wouldn't get
Yeah.
that self-reporting from our
Yeah.
transcript.
Yeah.
The students will do it when they are filling out their application, so
Right.
they have the ability to report their scores. They wouldn't take what we put on the transcript as the student's self-report. It
So
wouldn't
then
take the
why
place.
do you guys,
We just have to.
We
It's
have
what the
to.
state says.
Yes, state requires.
Asks us to put it on the transcript.
And that's why many students opt to have no scores on the transcript at all.
Yes. Yes.
You said you can request not to have them on.
Yes, you can request to just have them off.
Requires it, you don't have it.
Exactly. We have to automatically do it, and then if you don't want it there, we have to take it off. Yes.
We don't know why.
You said you're moving to an end-of-year grade. Is
Yes.
that determined by an end-of-year test that tests everything cumulative?
No, that will be course specific. That is not what I foresee happening in any capacity. I believe, if we look at our standards-based grading classes, for example, they really grade on growth, right? So a student might start here and really be struggling to master some of those concepts, but by the end of the year, they are rocking it out, and that grade, whatever number grade is a 6, might translate to an A. That'll be an A. So every course will handle it differently. I see us moving further away from one big cumulative test, absolutely, that will determine a grade. It's a year of progress, and that should be reflected. Yes.
So the transcript does only reflects year-end grades, senior year, when they're applying to schools. The schools will only see through junior year.
When they apply to schools, it'll be any class, high school credit class they've taken through the end of their junior year. And then, so 8th grade, if your student's here and they're taking high school classes, 9th, 10th, 11th, all those final end of year grades. And then the classes they're taking senior year, and then updated grades in the middle of their senior year. They,
Yeah. So like around now.
There just wouldn't be any credit assigned to it at that point. There'd be, they have a grade at the time.
but there would be a grade.
Yeah.
grade,
Yeah.
yes.
Updated grades, but
Definitely.
it won't have a credit, a final credit attached to it. It's just kind of like a snapshot of here they are mid-year.
So then it also will be reflected in the overall GPA.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just to be clear,
Yes.
starting with the rising ninth grade class, so is it just, so like I also have a junior?
Yes.
So will his transcript be all the years the same way that it currently is? Okay, good. So
Yes.
it's only, every student will have one uniform looking transcript. They won't have, oh, these are the high school classes you've done with the 2 semesters and this is the rest with the whole year, right? It won't be a hybrid?
It will be a hybrid, but it will all be on the same transcript. It will be explained. So we've talked to colleges because the last thing we want to do is impact a student's application process. Colleges are used to this. As long as we explain it, and we will explain it, we're going to work with colleges to make sure it is very clear in our school profile for your older students. And we're going to have, just to be clear, if you have an older student, we're going to have a further meeting about this. I just wanted to be clear for your current rising nines. So we further explain it. We'll show you everything to make sure you feel clear and confident in that.
Right now, any student who has already taken high school credit classes will actually have 2 separate transcripts going to their college applications.
One transcript, it'll just have, it's
It'll be, half of it will be formatted one way, and the other half will be formatted another way.
it's really going to be formatted the same. It'll just say it just will say final grade for like your next grade, 9th grade year, 7 classes, English 9, 1 credit A. Algebra 1, 1 credit B, whereas previous years it might say Algebra 1.5 A, Algebra 1.5
So I'm
B.
trying to say, so the kids who, high school credit classes start in the 7th grade.
Mhm.
So the kids for this meeting, will they have their 7th and 8th grade high school credit classes reported by semester and then 9th through 12th the full year?
Not 8th grade.
We are working to, I'm sorry, Ms. Hardy, what? Oh, the question was, will the current 8th graders have, Ms. Hardy's here. Yay, Ms. Hardy. Sorry, you didn't know you'd be called on. Will the current 8th graders have semester 1, semester 2 grades, or will they be reported by final grade at the end of the year?
So we will shift to the same timeline of 2020, 2021 to moving to year-long, some reporting of year-long grades. So we will shift to the same transition of year-long reporting to align with what the high school transcripts will look like, since that's where they ultimately land is on a high school transcript.
Perfect.
So for the 7th and 8th grade,
They
they'll
will
have
be
semester 1,
semesters.
semester 2.
Okay, so any high school credit class that they've taken at MEH
Yes.
is going to show in the traditional way we've
Yep.
always done. And then starting next year, everything will just be this new Virginia standard.
Yes.
So the kids who are upper class in Mason now, every high school class they've taken so far will be the way Mason's always done it, except for next year you are going to change it for that?
Yes.
You're not going to let them finish it out?
No.
Okay, so they'll have 6 years of high school credit classes shown one way and 1 year of high school classes shown a totally different way.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Hi, not to change the subject.
No, that's fine.
The high school band teacher visited the 8th graders
Yes.
today, and she was helping them think through some creative ways to fit band into their schedule. next
Love
year.
Miss West.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was great. And so one of the options was to take personal finance in the summer. So I have a two-part question. One is, can they take personal finance between 8th and 9th grade this summer? And the second question is, you mentioned IB economics. If they take personal finance this summer and then they decide that they're interested in economics, can they also take IB economics later?
So let me just repeat the question to make sure everyone heard. Our band teacher, Miss West, had gone over today and was brainstorming with the students that are in band or potentially interested in band on how they can best fit band into their schedule. And so the first question was, let me make sure I have it, that can they take personal finance and or economics over the summer in between 8th and 9th grade? And secondly, if they later on choose to take IB economics, which fulfill the personal finance economics requirement, can they do both? So first things first, in order for a student to take a summer class like personal finance between 8th and 9th grade, that really does take a level of maturity to be able to access the class, right? We oftentimes encourage our older students to do that. If you feel like your student is incredibly self-motivated, that they will get it done, they have a plan. We have plenty of 9th graders that come in with potentially more mature than I am and are ready to do it. I would say then absolutely, we will allow them to do it. Your 8th graders going to 9th grade do have access to the classes, but we'd want to make sure that they're ready to do it because we want to set them up on their first foray into high school with success. Secondly, if they did choose to take IB economics, they absolutely could access the class. It just would, their original class would just be an elective. We won't expunge it from the transcript, but they would just take one as an elective. It's fine. They're welcome to. Does that answer it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think I went over all of this. Oh, at the end, IB and AP classes are weighted. They are a weighted grade. Students get a 1.0 GPA bump. So we are on a 4.0 scale, but if a student does take an AP or an IB class, it's out of 5. It does not change their letter grade on the transcript, so if they get a B, it will still say a B, but it will calculate as a 4.0 instead of a 3.0 into their GPA. Honors classes are not weighted, but they are reflected with an H in a certain column, and then it also says honors. And so again, colleges are used to that. It doesn't at all hinder our students' ability to access and get in. So at the end of this, I'm going to show you, we are actually going to an online program of studies. We are super excited. Mr. Knight was going to launch it as this was starting. And it's like kind of interactive is a strong word, but you can click on things. You know, it's not a PDF anymore. We are trying to be super progressive. And so if it has glitches, it's not my fault at all. No, he has done an incredible job. It is Mr. Knight's fault. Oh, right. Yes. Perfect. She will give out his phone number later. No, he has done yes. He's done an amazing job transferring it over, and so it will be. I will show you the page, but basically you can click on science and then read through them without having to scroll 50 PDF pages. Everything will be in there. It'll be for your current 2021 school year and what we are offering. I will say that the offerings that are in the book are what we intend to offer. It is what we will allow all of our students to potentially choose from. If a student does not have, if a class does not have a high enough enrollment, we will potentially not be able to offer it next year, but we would tell you long before your student ever enters this building if they had to change an elective per se. That very rarely happens, but I always need to put that caveat in that that's why when they're going to be choosing classes with us and then their counselor in the next coming weeks, we ask for them to choose alternatives that they're really interested in. The biggest thing, we want our students to choose the most challenging classes they can take, but also feel good and be successful. And I know I don't have feel good in there, but high school, you get one shot at this, right? I know a lot of students that come in guns blazing, they want to take every honors class, and then they're here and they're like, you know what? I can do this academically, but I'm not enjoying it. I want to do sports. I want to do the play. I want to scale back a little bit. And we want them to come in feeling good, right? The ninth grade is a huge transition, and you only get one shot at it, and we want it to be the best possible chance it can be. And so we'll talk through classes, but harnessing their strengths and giving them a little breathing room, if I could encourage that today more than anything, please just allow them potentially to have the grace to do that. And I know that's hard because we want to push our kids, but we also want them to fly, right? So let's go through our timeline of what's going to happen. These are not classes from this current year. I did edit that at some point. Thank you.
So you mean, that's 2021? Is that what we mean by that?
Choosing classes for next school year,
Maybe.
this year.
Oh.
See, thanks. I appreciate your save on that one. All right. Actually, starting on Monday, we're going to be going over and meeting with your students. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the counselors will be meeting in their current alphabet groups. So assuming things stay the same, they will see the counselor they're meeting with in small groups, about 20 to 30, I think you guys have, and they'll be choosing classes. We'll be going over what their options are. I'm going to show you their options this evening. And just talking through things. They're also going to get a worksheet. Ask them about this worksheet. By next Friday, everyone should have a worksheet. They'll get to go through. They will get to choose things. This is their worksheet, right? And this is, again, a worksheet. It will also have directions on how they're going to register online for classes. Ms. Philmeyer is a pro at this. She is awesome. She will help walk them through everything they need to do. But a lot of our students really just kind of know what they want to take. They're good. They check in with her, ready to rock. But we'll work through it with them a little bit next week, and then it'll be, they have until February 21st, I believe. It'll say on the handout of when they can turn it in. Again, we will meet with students in small groups. They will have the piece of paper. At the end of each piece of paper, it'll say, so in each column, it'll say like language and literature, which is their English option. It'll say language and literature 9, language and literature 9 honors, and then it'll say teacher signature. We are asking that all of our 8th grade teachers sign off on the classes that their students are picking, because we want the students to have a conversation. We are an open enrollment school. I want to be very clear on that. If your student wants to challenge himself with honors and the teacher says, I don't think it's a good idea, we will still allow them to take honors. But be judicious. Help the students be judicious with their choices, right? I would hope that the teacher knows your student and will give them great advice, but it's just allowing for more collaboration between the student and the teacher. And then they'll bring it home. So by Friday evening, ask your kids. You want to talk about it? Please. Okay.
So, like Ms. Reyes says, there's two choices for the language and literature, which used to be known as English, the honors level and the regular 9 level. All of our students will take world history 2. There's just one option. There's not an honors level. It's a great class. Everyone's together. And then science, there's a couple of different options. There's environmental science for students who may not be quite ready for maybe some of the vocabulary and language of biology. And there's biology, and then there's honors biology.
And I will say really quickly, we will hand out, when we go to present, and the science teachers will have it. A lot of times students don't know if they're ready for biology honors or regular biology. The biology team actually came up with a great handout. It's not a test that they have to hand back in, but it asks the students questions. Do you like to do this? Can you solve this kind of equation? Going through to allow them to make good choices. Since we started using this sheet, I'd say we have students stay where they are because they feel confident in the choice they made. And so I would encourage you, if your student's thinking about honors, to make sure they look at that handout that we will have for them.
And then descriptions for all of these are also online.
Yes.
Okay. For math, so depending on where your child is right now, what math they're in, that sort of drives where they're going to go next year. So if they're in algebra this year, the most likely choice is geometry. If they're in honors algebra this year, they might take our combination class, Geometry, Algebra 2, Trig, which is kind of combining multiple things in one. Or if they are in honors geometry now, they might take honors Algebra 2, Trig. Okay, so there's many different options.
The one thing you'll note if you had a student, so currently the Geometry Algebra 2 honors, Geometry Algebra 2 class is an honors level class. We're changing the format of that a little bit, and it will not be honors next year, but we will make sure there's a stronger trig component in it. So we're just altering it. It was a new class 2 years ago, and we're trying to adjust based upon the needs to get the students ready for the next level.
We also have I forgot to mention the Algeom sequence. So that's a 3-year sequence that combines algebra and geometry. It goes at a slower pace. So the first year they don't take that algebra SOL, they take it in the second year, and then the third year they wouldn't take that geometry SOL. Because they don't need to take another math SOL.
Can you please explain a little bit better the math options? Because over the years you have changed the courses, so there's not a clear path for any kid that comes into Mason of exactly what to do afterwards?
Absolutely. So we actually have, and I'm happy to pull it up once we go through this. I can show you we have a new math sequencing chart, which hopeful it will be online, will make things clearer. I don't want to go through too closely kind of what each one, because depending on, all of your kids are in different places for math, right? And to go through and say, well, your student's going to be here. I will say that we can go over the chart, I think maybe a little bit afterwards. You know what we can do? Why don't we go through this presentation? I'd be happy at the end for anyone that wants to stick around to talk through math a little bit.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the name of the class. You said, oh, this was new 2 years ago and it won't be ours. Which was that?
The combined Geometry Algebra 2 class.
Okay.
It is still here. It's just no longer an honors level class.
Okay.
They've kind of modified the curriculum a little bit, and we're hopeful for greater level of success and access.
And I think we added the name trig to it because it did include trigonometry, and we wanted to, we just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
For foreign language, we've got Spanish, French, Mandarin, and American Sign Language. PE 9, that's a requirement. 2 years of PE is required. And then the electives.
And so if your kid hates PE, they only have 2 more years.
It's a long list of electives. We'll encourage the students when we meet with them next week to maybe choose something that maybe they haven't taken before, or maybe it's something they want to continue. Maybe if they really love art, to continue that. We're offering a new ceramics class next year that should be really exciting. We've got a really great, I think, list of electives. Technical theater, sort of like for students who like
Stage crew,
backstage stuff.
And we actually have our elective teachers and students putting together videos currently, because you can read it in a book, but to be able to see what they do. So we're almost done. The goal was to have them done by next week so the students can watch them at home, and I hope they'll be linked to our program of studies so you can click on it and then watch a video. We're only doing them for the 9th grade electives.
Again, if they're not done, blame Steve again.
No, I'll own that one, sort of.
And then the band, so the percussion ensemble and the band, wind ensemble. Miss West usually makes the recommendation. I know someone asked about that. So.
I have a student who wants to know if you have to take theater to do the school play.
The question was, do you have to take theater to do the school play? No, you do not.
For chorus, right now, in order to participate, you have to come in at .30 and do it. Is that now changing? That'll be during regular traditional class hours?
So the question is, do you have to come in before school to take chorus? We offer two different levels of chorus. There's chamber singers, which is our higher level.
In the morning.
And then our regular chorus group, that is during the school day. Depending on where the student places is where they would take the class. If they place into chamber singers, they are asked to take it in the morning. You cannot choose to take it in the morning unless you place into chamber singers.
Do you want to? Oh.
Any other questions about electives? Great, awesome, great.
We offer a ton of support here at George Mason. We want your students to be comfortable, for the transition to be really smooth. We work closely with the middle school this year to make that transition smooth. The counselors are all available. We have something called the Educational Support Room, and it's staffed by faculty all day. It's where anyone can go get help. If a student isn't sure, what assignments they have that day, the teacher in there will pull up Schoology with them and work through things. The library is open after school. We have Saturday Learning Lounge, which is manned by peer tutors, which is a great program. Every Saturday from 9 to noon, a couple of teachers are here, and students can sign up to meet with tutors in any subject. It's great. It's free. Well, and we've got just peer tutoring. If maybe Saturday didn't work, we've got Mustang Block, which I think is similar to Husky Flex Time. We've got our Mustang ambassadors, who are upperclassmen who will be serving as like mentors to the 9th grade students. We've got our stable groups, right? Which is...
It's an advisory that we do with our students. And actually our 9th grade goes through a mental health curriculum. It's a public health approach to mental health that the counselors and student services staff teach to students.
We've also got the after-school writing lab, which is staffed by one of our English teachers, and then she also has peer tutors to help students, and that's available for any student in any writing assignment. It doesn't have to be for English class. It could be a paper they're doing for world history, for example. So a lot of good supports.
Just one note about Mustang Block. If you have a student who's here now, you'll know that that time is whatever that the student decides to make of it, because it's not a structured time in the sense that they're not assigned to be anywhere during that time. Many students use it very productively, but others probably don't use it as productively as they should. Sorry. And we really would encourage, I think, parents to help us in the sense that if you know your student could benefit from going to see a teacher during Mustang Block, to sort of push them along in that direction, because otherwise they'll probably end up here in the cafeteria during that time hanging out with their friends, which is nice, and it's nice to have that time in the course of a school day to kind of decompress. We understand that's important as well. But we also hope that they understand that this is a time when every teacher in the building is available, no teacher is teaching, and it's a time that they could use to maybe, if they need extra help or something, to use that time. So we hope they will.
Also, really quickly, the last one, it's case managers. So if your student currently has an IEP, obviously they'll come into 9th grade with an IEP. We will allow opportunities, and definitely have opportunities, for transition meetings before the year begins. We usually have a meet your case manager time before school begins, so you can come in and meet the student's case manager. And we potentially will run something in the spring as well to get students with IEPs into the building and make sure we all are comfortable with the supports that they need. If a student has a 504, the counselor will be the case manager, and you'll be working with them. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Alicia Miller and Dan Coast to go talk a little bit about IB. At the end, if you're interested, I'm happy to show where the program of studies is and talk through math and any other additional questions that people may have. Any questions right now for the good of the group before we move to this part? Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right, let's go to this. If I can't see the present, how do I do it? Present. This is all. Yes, I need it. Okay. I think we need to go back. Oh, where's the first one? Oh, perfect. Okay, excellent. So.
Hi, everybody. My name's Alicia Miller. I'm the IB/MYP coordinator here in Falls Church City. So that means I work here at George Mason and also over at Mary Ellen Henderson, because as Alana said before, MYP does carry across grades 6 through 10. So just a little bit of a review on what are the aims we're going for here with an IB education in all of our programs. We make sure that we center on the learner. We work really hard at developing approaches to learning skills so students can reflect on who they are as learners and reflect on their learning. We offer a broad, balanced, conceptual, and connected curriculum. So all of the courses that you've just learned the students are going to take, the MYP curriculum framework and the PYP and the DP curriculum all try to work in a conceptual way to help the students make a transfer from class to class. So they're not seeing these classes in isolation from one another. They're really making those connections. And then as an international baccalaureate program, we are fostering international mindedness, helping students understand who they are in our global community and the impact that they can have. So you've already learned a lot about the classes that the students are going to take. I'm just going to reiterate that these are the courses that the students will continue in MYP. So the good news is that they're in the MYP now in 8th grade, and they're going to continue into the MYP into 9th grade. So that will hopefully be part of a smoother transition into high school. So the 5 main courses they will continue to take is they will take Individuals and Societies, they will take a math class, they'll take science, they will take a language acquisition class, and a language and literature, which is known as English. So they'll take one of their grade 9 English classes. They do need to take PE, but then they will be able to choose art or design. So all of these courses and all of the courses that are open to them here at Mason help them towards graduation, but also meet our IB-MYP requirements. For each of the MYP courses, every subject has 4 objectives that the students are assessed by. And there's different criteria within these objectives. So we call them A, B, C, D across the board, but as you can see, depending on the discipline, the objectives change a little bit in terms of what criterion A is or what criterion B is. And so there they are. Many of you are probably, and your students are probably familiar with these already because they have been studying in MYP while they've been over at Mary Ellen Henderson. Okay, and then just lastly, the MYP ends in a culminating project. So we have culminating projects in PYP, in MYP, and in the diploma. And Dan's going to talk a little bit more about that when he talks about the diploma program. So as our students finish their primary year's program in 5th grade, they engage with the exhibition. When they move through their MYP journey at grade 10, they complete a personal project, which is an individual student-led inquiry into a topic of their choice. Any topic they want, they get to choose it. They set a goal around that, and then they document their process, and they end up creating a product or some sort of way of showcasing their learning at the Personal Project Showcase. This year's Personal Project Showcase is March 11th, so if you're interested in seeing some of those this year, I encourage you to come. The good news also is that we will be engaging in the 8th grade community project over in Mary Ellen Henderson, so all 8th grade students will take part in the community project, which is similar in that they are engaging in their own inquiry, but it's focused more on a need in a community and how can they address that need through some action. So while they'll be engaging in that in 8th grade, we're thinking it may be a way to springboard into the personal project. It doesn't have to. Again, the personal project will be completely up to the student, but having engaged through the exhibition in student-led inquiry, then through the community project, we know that they'll be very successful combining all of their skills from their MYP journey and all the knowledge they've gained into their personal project at the end of grade 10. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Dan to talk a little bit about our diploma program.
So let me just say, if you were here Tuesday night, I talked for 1 hour and 15 minutes nonstop and loved it, had a lot of questions. I'm not going to do that tonight. So please don't exit the room yet. This is my goal tonight is just to give you, kind of whet your appetite of what the IB diploma might look like. And I say, well, wow, you know, your students are going to be 9th graders this fall, and now we're talking about going all the way to the senior year. I can tell you as a parent, I have sophomores, twins, and the time is flying. We're already talking about college and doing college visits, and it just comes so quick. So I'm going to whet your appetite a little bit tonight about the IB diploma program. So first off, understand the IB diploma is really about those last 2 years of high school. We sneak a couple sophomores in an IB diploma class. That's a case-by-case basis, but generally we're talking the last 2 years of high school. Of course, it is very helpful to help them prepare for college. IB was first instituted in Switzerland in 1968. It was designed not for college credit per se, like a college board AP class. It was designed to get kids ready for the rigors of an international education as mom and dads traveled throughout Europe. It has expanded to over 4,000 schools now worldwide, and we are the oldest school in Virginia to carry that program. when you talk about college admissions, and we're talking about it in my household already, and I hope that we're not driving our kids crazy, but they do ask some questions about it. It is viewed very favorably by college admissions officers. What they want to see, and I've talked to many, what they want to see when they review applications for college is has the child accessed as much of the rigor in the high school program available in the high school they attended. In our case, they're going to see in our school profile, we're an IB diploma school. And so they're going to be curious, the admissions officers are going to be curious, how many IB diploma classes did this applicant take? Now, I'm not saying you have to do the full IB to be attractive. We have a lot of students in this building who take 3 or 4 IB classes, they don't do the full diploma, and they go to wonderful colleges. But we also have a number of students who elect to do the full diploma, and clearly they are maximizing the educational opportunity, the highest academic opportunity we have available at Mason, and admissions officers do recognize that. And it was already mentioned, of course, the GPA bump is nice. Admissions officers know school districts play with these bumps with honors classes, which we don't, and they adjust for that. But it's still helpful to know that sometimes there's a minimum threshold for applications to even be looked at, and sometimes those bumps just help your child's application kind of make it onto that next pile. Oh, our webpage, by the way, has a lot of extra IB information. I encourage you to take a look, and again, continue to whet your appetite. So how common is it? Well, 87% of our seniors last year took 1 or more classes. 25% actually did the full IB diploma, which I think is a nice number. I'd like to see that number go even higher. But what is critical, as I said on Tuesday night, and I always say, it's important for our students, your kids, to maximize the rigor in their transcript, but also maintain a nice balance in life and a good GPA. For some students, they manage to do the whole IB diploma, and that's great. For other students, it might be a little less than a full IB diploma course load, but they're maintaining a strong GPA for colleges to consider their acceptance. So you're ultimately going to be looking, are you going to do an IB diploma path, or are you going to do courses paths? I'm not going to ask you to memorize all the classes we have here, but we do have a lot of IB diploma offerings that you'll really begin to look at as you get into the last 2 years of high school. Some of these might require that you look at that elective in 9th and 10th grade carefully, knowing it might be a prerequisite for entry into that diploma class. Your guidance counselors in this building are awesome. They know the diploma program well. They will help your children look ahead, and when talking about electives in 9th grade, making sure they're setting themselves up for a class they may want to get into. So for example, if you want to get into IB computer science down the road, it might be good to get into the AP computer science classes to start that programming language experience before they get to the IB level. Oh, how about those SLs and those, but the groups 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 SIB language. I'll talk about why that's important to know in a moment. And also notice you see a lot of HLs and SLs, so I think we better talk about that briefly. IB exams and courses are designated as higher level or standard level. Don't be fooled that standard level somehow is standard. It's a rigorous course. But IB makes the distinction between the rigor in a standard level and the 2-year rigor of a higher level course. Our higher level courses and exams are 2-year classes, and students need to enroll in them thinking of them as a 2-year journey. Our standard level classes are a 1-year class with some exceptions. Some of them are and have to be, by IB standards, 2-year classes. And as you get into the planning of your IB diploma, you'll see all your options to do that. In fact, maybe I can give you a sneak preview. In Group 1, that's our language and literature. It doesn't matter if you're an honors or regular in 9th grade. We have open admission, and we will welcome you into our IB diploma classes as you approach the 11th and 12th grade. The literature course, in a nutshell, 13 pieces of literature studied over 2 years. Get to analyze it and get to analyze it well. The language and literature course is a standard level. Now, there's that 2-year standard level I had mentioned, and that will analyze 4 pieces of literature with the balance of the class looking at political cartoons, journals and scientific writing, media, advertisements. So it really gets the students to understand how language is used in a variety of media and written platforms. As you go to group 2, if you want an IB diploma, you are going to have to carry on your language. Yes, it's true. After year 3, you can exit a language, and you will have an advanced studies diploma requirement met for Virginia. But no college admissions officers like to see resilience, and one way to prove resilience for any high school student is to carry on in a second language, working towards proficiency in that target language all the way through the senior year. It's not required for college admission, but it doesn't hurt. It certainly can be helpful. And certainly you want to look at, if you're going for an IB diploma, you are going to have to move into a junior, perhaps even a senior year course in that language. More about that when you come to my in-depth diploma presentations next year or your 10th grade year. Group 3, we got a lot of offerings. You're meeting your second world history requirement. If you're already in World History 1, you're going to meet that second world history requirement the state has as a freshman. You'll meet your government credit, in most cases, by your sophomore year. There's only one more state requirement for social studies in the mix, and that would be your U.S. history, I believe, is needed for the advanced studies diploma. Now, excuse me? Either diploma. Thank you. So the course I have in red up there, the IB History of the Americas, it will meet the needs for the state on the U.S. history requirement. And technically, you've met your state requirements as a Falls Church City student by the end of that junior year. Though you can see we have a couple of the 2-year sequences posted there. I have a bunch of 1-year standard level courses to look at. You can take them the junior or the senior year, hence they're kind of spread out between either year in that gray box. Also, it's already been mentioned about the IB Economics, substituting the EPF requirement, Economics Personal Finance requirement from the state. I'll say no more about that. But you will, if you're going for a full diploma, need a subject out of this grouping, Group 3. You'll need at least one of those exam courses represented. When you move into the sciences, there's just too many options playing into how to feed into each of those by the junior and senior year. But just as a simple graphic, a lot of students start out with biology. A lot of students move into chemistry. Some are now moving into AP Physics as sophomores. But you can see we have a nice set of diploma level classes the last 2 years. Many of them are higher level. There is a 2-year standard level environmental systems course, great course, and you can see some 1-year courses. The course in red, I'm just going to say something about that. Design Technology for IB is a Group 4, so it meets the science requirement for an IB diploma. Note, for a Virginia diploma, Design Technology will not work. And the computer science will work, and that's, I believe, Brad, and you can help me. I know you're the one who really enlightened me a couple years ago on that. You have to be an IB diploma candidate, and for that to actually work as a science credit for Virginia. Computer science. Either way.
I'm going to actually say let's not get into that too much, just because that gets, like, if you guys remember anything from tonight, it's that you have a kid going into 9th grade. So if you have specific questions about how computer science can work and fit, we will definitely happily talk to you about that offline. I just don't want to overwhelm, sorry.
That message received.
Great job, I promise.
There's 2 different IB math courses. You'll hear about them as you go through your years, but certainly wherever you start out is kind of where you can wind up. So I'll leave that as it is. But again, an IB diploma candidate would need to take one or the other of the courses shown ultimately. And of course, IB kids will need to take a theory of knowledge class, philosophy class, and there's a lot of electives in the arts. And for your students who are into the arts, our IB diploma program can cater to their needs and take them to the next level. Some of them are standard level, as you see, and some are the higher level 2-year sequences. In any event, if you're going to go for an IB diploma, keep in mind you're going to have to take the courses you see in yellow. You're going to have to take one in each of those groupings. And that Group 6, you could do an art, or you could take a second Group 2, another language, or a Group 3, the social studies classes, or you could take another science if you chose for that 6th exam. But an IB diploma would require 6 exam courses, one again from each of the yellow you see, and then one more. 3 have to be at the higher level, so the 2-year sequences, and 3 have to be at the standard level for an IB diploma. So you keep in mind there will be balance there. What's important is your students, when they come in here and meet with their counselors in their 9th grade year, they really ought to talk to me too. And we kind of want to know if they're thinking about an IB diploma so that we can obviously properly guide them in that 4-year journey. So make that known and tell your students to speak up if that's something they're thinking about. Certainly if they mention it in their 9th grade year, they're not locked in, but it's nice to know what their thought process is as we move through high school. Oh, for an IB diploma, you need some other stuff too. It's the core. You do have to document your community service and your action and any creative endeavors outside the classroom. It's called CAS. You have to write a research paper in the 11th and 12th grade, and you'll have to take that philosophy course, TOK, or Theory of Knowledge. Those are the extra things that also must accompany a diploma. So these students do rise above and beyond the classroom to make themselves very attractive for college and to round themselves out as complete students in those last 2 years of high school. So again, what are you going to do? You're going to go for the full diploma path, or are you going to do just some? And that obviously will be a conversation I know you'll be having with your children out throughout high school as they get ready to move in those last years. So take the appropriate and challenging courses, make sure you continue in your language, and have a plan for EPF. Don't let that slip off the table. Specific DP questions should come to me, please. Your counselors are so knowledgeable on it too, but it validates my salary if you call me too. So let me know what your thoughts are and what your questions are. And I have got to check because I said by 8, 7:59, Alana.
So we will help them figure it all out. That I promise you. And it is one step at a time. And so right now our focus is going to be getting them registered for the best classes that are for them. And just helping them feel good about coming to 9th grade. We will do whatever we can to support your student, to make them feel that this is their home. I know a lot of you, if you have a student who is an athlete, they've already been part of this, and that is one way in. If they are considering doing something next fall, I would say what a great opportunity to start talking to Ms. Braven, our athletic director. I know students that either do band over, that get ready through, that they're coming in, that's one way, a sport in the fall. It is just one way to make connections in this building. And they're like, oh yeah, I've been there, no big deal, right? One less thing to worry about for your student. We do transition programs in the spring. We have students come over, they take tours, they meet with students, they ask all their good questions. Again, we want this to be like no big deal. It's just another year, but it's really exciting. Also, how exciting that your kids are going to be the first ones in our new building, right? I have to say, I think that is amazing. I just got chills saying that. I'm so excited. They are going to be the first class to go through all 4 years there. And I think that's also kind of cool, right? When you think about that it's a big year of transition for your guys, it's a big year of transition for all of us. And so we're all going to be in this together. And I think there's some comfort in that, right? That we're all going to be doing this new thing in this new building together, and we will support each other through it. I thank you guys for being here. I'm going to spend a minute after this. I don't want to hold anyone up. I'm sure you have people to get to sleep and all those good things. My kids love it when I have these nights because my husband's like, whatever, they can stay up. And I come home and they're like, we're still up, it's great. I love it too. But I'm happy to show you where to locate things on the website and talk through math and answer any questions. Or any other questions for the good of the group? Yes?
Can I just ask a question? How many AP courses are offered in high school and what grades are they?
Great question. Yeah, so what the question was, how many AP classes are offered and when are they offered? Because we're an IB division, obviously we only use AP to kind of supplement and additional levels of rigor, and so we never offer AP kind of in competition necessarily with an IB class. If we can offer it in IB, we always do. So AP, freshman year, you could potentially take AP Computer Science Principles or AP Computer Science A, depending on the level of math. 6. There you go. Thank you. Yes?
Do you get college credit for the IB courses like you do with AP?
You can potentially. So that's all decided once you go to college, right? Like, so let's say you're admitted. Every school has a different threshold of where they will accept your test score. So Some colleges, it's really, you have to have a 5 on the AP exam, and consequently, you might have to have a 6 or a 7 on the IB exam. And all the schools typically produce a document that'll say what tests they'll take and what score you have to get to earn them. So there's no high school credit where you just take the class, then subsequently you get the college credit that we offer right now, pretty much. It's all, you have to take the test at the end. Yes?
Would the PPT be available tomorrow so that we can work with our kids in preparation for them to meet with the counselors?
Sure. So we're going to have the whole video with the PowerPoint online. I'm happy to ask Steve Knight to also put our PowerPoint up on our website. I can happily do that. Yes, that's not a problem. Yeah, we can do that. I'll do my best to get it up tomorrow. That's outside my comfort zone, but I will do my very best. Yes. Anything else? Yes.
So when you say open enrollment, we all hope that our kids are gonna pick and choose something good, right?
Yes.
But how long do they have in case if they have a 2 AP class or something like
Yeah.
that? How long do they have within the 9th grade to say, listen, I didn't know I wasn't ready for this, so can I just button up a little bit?
Absolutely.
Where was that open enrollment?
That's a great question. So the question was kind of what's the time frame if they feel like they've chosen things that are too difficult and they need to scale back. And listen, we hope they make great choices day one and they can stick with that schedule because consistency is key kind of for feeling comfortable and success. But absolutely, kids make errors in judgment and they need to make changes. So number one, if your student makes a decision now and they want to change a class before the year ends, they'll work with Ms. Philmeyer to make that change and we'll adjust accordingly. I would say help them make the best decision because based upon the numbers of enrollment that I get now is how we choose what classes we offer and how many classes we offer. Once the school year begins, if a student wants to change a class, they have to fill out a form and I have to approve it. In order to move up to another level, so let's say they start in biology and they're like, I got this, I really should have taken honors, I was just so scared and I realized I can do this. 10 days, from this 10 school days to move into a new higher level class. We do 6 weeks to move down into I don't want to say a lower level, but a more appropriate level class. And electives are our case-by-case availability. That's why make good choices on those early. Absolutely. All right, guys, thank you so much. We will see you soon.